It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 517. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
There must be something about this podcast.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Kodra.
Weirdly, not a prime number.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
In the end, who's on your side? Who can you trust in the middle of the night?
I'm so clueless at this point. I am sorry.
Believe in yourself. My son has been playing so much Sonic recently, and in particular has become, for whatever reason, has become obsessed with the song Cosmic Eternity.
Okay.
You can go into like
from.
the extra stuff. It's from the Japanese version of Sonic CD.
Oh.
It's the ending theme for the Japanese and PAL versions.
Got it.
But so the collection that includes it includes like all the various interstitials and all the music, and it includes both the English and Japanese music. And he has been playing Cosmic Eternity so much this week.
Gotta go fast. So this week was the reveal stream for Path of Exile II Dawn of the Hunt, but we don't have patch notes. So shrug, we're not really sure how it's going to shake out. They introduced the Huntress, and it has two ascendancies, and also introduced the Smith of Katava, which is kind of a rebranding of Chieftain, but not really. It's got the nonsense that Chieftain has, where you're going to be able to get 90% all res pretty easy. And Lich went in for the Witch class, and that cares about chaos. They added Spectres. Spectres are not going to be awful.
Wait, how?
I don't believe you.
I don't believe
So
you.
when you capture a Spectre, it becomes a gem in your list of spells.
Wait, capture a Spectre?
Yes, and it auto summons itself just like the rest of the minions.
What's
Huntress
the process to capture a Spectre?
Just resurrect the corpse, and it will show you all the corpses available, and you can hover over them and see what they give you.
Holy shit, that's way better than PoE 1.
Yeah. So it just goes in as a spell gem, and then you support it like normal. Huntress also has this ability for beasts, so you can absolutely go capture the gorilla that kills everyone in Act 3 and have it fight by your side. And it does the same thing. You just you capture the beast, and it becomes a spell gem that you can then summon and support. So that's all really cool. It gives me some measure of hope that maybe they realize that Animate Guardian Inspectors are awful. Here's only hoping some of that UX can backport to PoE 1. I'm trying to think what the other... So there was there was a Tactician, I think is what it was called, which is another mercenary ascendancy that appears to be kind of a hybridization of champion and also guardian sort of ish, because it has things that buff others in your party and or minions. So I don't know what's going on with that. In the Q&A, they basically said that everything is going to feel like it was nerfed. So, okay.
Wait, no. Why?
Yeah.
Wrong direction, guys.
Yeah, that was basically my takeaway. And a lot of people were very excited about it, but the new league mechanic is a wisp that you walk around the map with as an escort quest, and it can empower rares and make it super tanky to kill, and also like give you rewards for doing it, but like you kind of have to slow walk it through the map. And if you ever get out of range with the wisp, it desummons itself and ends the event. So no one likes escort quests. Why is the League mechanic an escort quest?
I like everything's gonna feel nerfed in a game that was already like pretty sluggish and like extremely punitive. Does not seem like the correct direction.
Yeah, so like the Smith of Katava, its kind of showcase ability is it whips out an anvil in the middle of the map and channels for 3 seconds, and as it beats on its weapon, and then gains a buff that has 3 stacks, which empowers the next 3 attacks. So like that's gonna feel awful if you have to stop after every 3 attacks and channel up your ability again so that you can do these slow hammer attacks.
So I think I already ranted about this in the ARPG, but like this game really does feel like they are taking so many notes from Soulsborne games.
Yes.
And the note that they are missing from those is that you try and make it so that the amount of time that you end up losing doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Like let me walk this back. One of the things that happens in every Souls game that everyone like usually identifies as a really good piece of design is if you die, you can get everything you lost back if you're able to get to where you were. So you effectively lose no time. Like there is not a loss of progress. But that's not what happens in Path of Exile. If you die, you lose all of that progress.
Yeah, so one thing that they did do, which is a slight improvement, is the number of portals that you have on a map is going to be based on the number of affixes that you have on a map. So that like if you're running a no affix map, you have 6 portals and then it, drops down from there.
Oh, okay. I was about to say like
so that's at least something.
So I have the most portals when I need them the least. Cool.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's fine.
So
I don't that is
That
better.
is better.
That does mean when you're getting started, you have the most room for failure.
This is true.
Yes. And they're trying to ease the transition into maps, they said, to be a little bit more gradual, so that people can get into it easier.
So you don't have someone like me who literally did a 20-minute long map only to get one shot by a boss and then never logged into Path of Exile 2 again.
Yeah, that happened to a lot of people, I think.
I think it did have it's really easy
like
to stop.
It's a big part of the problem that Kodra was just describing, where the thing that is hard about Souls games is your own patience. The actual mechanics, for the most part, only really get hard when you're really deep in. Otherwise, it's relatively, it's very well messaged. It's very well, they're bad when they're not well messaged, and they get lit up about it. And, PoE sucks at messaging. So yeah, you're going to get one shot.
Well, that's also PoE sucks at balance.
Yeah, and I know Elian beat his head against this wall, but still never cleared a map, and was really trying multiple different builds to see if to try and get through it, but never really got a start in mapping and felt real bad. So I don't know, I still feel like they are dying on a hill of being a less forgiving game than PoE 1.
That's
not statement. A necessary thing.
Yeah, they're really into huffing their own farts. Just pathologically.
And
it's a problem.
And also they did come out and say in the Q&A portion, that's the additional hour and a half after the hour of presentation that armor isn't going to be fixed in this reset.
Cool.
Wait, why?
That they haven't figured out how they want to fix it yet.
I mean, that makes it really easy for me to not to play this game then.
This game presents, I think you're talking about this with somebody earlier. This game looks like it presents so many options, and they're even worse balanced than they are in PoE 1.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that drives me nuts, right, is Souls games also suck real bad at balance. Real bad. Like, they're not balanced. But, like, they don't need to be.
It is true. I actually find it very funny that, like, I think I actually am curious where you come down on this, but, like, most of my opinion of Souls games is Souls games are trying very hard to give you the tools to make the game as hard as you want it to be. And, like, there is a problem with the community saying you should only ever build melee-oriented swords and learn how to dodge. But I can just stand over here and cast a spell and blow people up and summon an ally, and it's not that bad.
I'm telling you, if you have not played Dark Souls 1 before, and you would like to play it on not quite easy mode, but pretty freaking close, start with Pyromancer.
Yeah.
Just throw a fireball at them. It turns out being able to throw a fireball at your enemies is really strong in those games.
Like, I think this has been the core problem of why I never attach to Souls-like games is I don't want to cast magic.
I mean, it's not
I want to hit things with swords.
If you want to hit things with a weapon, I suggest the Temple Knight, who starts out with a halberd.
Yeah, like...
A weapon you don't need to stand directly next to enemies to hit them with.
Yeah, you get the big weapon, and the big weapon, like, it's one of those things where it's like, the closer you are, the more danger you're in. So, like, if you want to, most of the time, if you want to hate yourself in a Souls game, play daggers, or whatever the smallest possible weapon is, because it's going to be misery.
Speedrunners use huge fuck-off swords and hammers.
Wield 2 katanas, wear no armor, and put a pot on your head.
But yeah, like, either the biggest weapon you can carry or magic, and Souls games are way easier than it's one of those things where you play through it and you'll be like, I don't understand what the fuss is. Like, yeah, I died a few times, but like I hit things with my huge weapon.
Like there's definitely a point I find Souls games are hardest at the very beginning of them. And then there's a point where, like, the first time you like crunch through 2 bosses without a death in a row, and it's like, oh, I've like pushed myself, like I've picked the options to push myself past this game's difficulty curve.
Yeah, like, yeah, they're definitely hardest right at the start, and a lot of that is, I mean, and again, a lot of it is like
you don't have the tools. Yeah,
learning.
You also just don't know how things work yet.
Yeah, learning a little bit of patience, not being greedy, and understanding the rules. But like having played a variety of other Souls games, like I dropped into Elden Ring and crushed through it basically from the start. And it's also why I think that Jedi Fallen Order is the best Souls game ever made, because it actually has a reasonable beginning curve, so that by the time it's doing really hard stuff, you've actually learned it at a reasonable pace.
Well, and it also has a difficulty slider to make it so that if you don't want to play it like a Souls game, you don't have to play it like a Souls game.
Right.
It's true.
It's great. But like I definitely agree that PoE 2 feels like they want the rep of Souls games, but without really understanding how it's like, I mean, if you want to make a Souls game but only talk to the community.
The other thing not mentioned on this podcast yet is time between failure and reattempt.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Which, I mention this all the time, Super Meat Boy was the first platformer to really get this right. And it's carried into Celeste and most of the other super hardcore platformers on PC.
Super Meat Boy is it's not my favorite game, but it is an absolute work of genius as far as things it did to move platformers forward. I'm
not sure I even actually like Super Meat Boy, but it was important.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, I played it and like, oh, my death to reattempt is like under a second.
Yep.
Really, really helps in Like, yeah, I'm gonna die 100 billion times, and that's gonna be fine. Yeah, I died. I died last night in Star Citizen, which drove me to quit for the night because it was just like such an inconvenient, annoying death.
Yep.
But their new patch understands this. They're learning. You no longer lose your gear when you die.
Oh, that's super good.
It's huge. You come back with any equipped armor, guns, and consumables, which includes ammo.
Yeah, I mean, I play a ton of Celeste, and yes, it's extremely important for me to be able to, like, I'm going to spend an hour on a screen and get like 1,000 attempts on it, or like some ridiculous number of attempts, just because that's how fast I can die and retry, and it feels super good to get better as you like try the same thing over and over and over again, and like that incremental improvement is what feels good. And like playing Path of Exile 2 and like just doing kind of low danger work, like moderate danger work, I'll say, for 20 minutes, and then like just flatly get crushed, was like, oh, I never want to do that again. I like it. Literally basically uninstall this game from my computer.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is in that 20 minutes of getting back, the thing that you needed to learn and then attempt to express having learned, you've lost.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer present.
It's no longer present. It's not like I'm going to get better.
Yeah, and it's like a combination of, like, I think you have it right. Like, it's not just that it's not that it's low intensity, because if it were low intensity, you would like, it would be 20 minutes, but you'd be thinking about the thing you need to do, but you have to think about what's in front of you. Like, it's never quite easy enough for you to say, you know, I'm just going to think about the boss while I make my way back to the boss.
Well, and then the problem is like, was there actually anything I could have done better here? Because like, this is something where I just like, my numbers aren't good enough for this.
Yeah.
Because that's a totally reasonable thing to be true in a game like Path of Exiles. Like, oops, you don't have the good build. Clearly, you should have had a blue bar's worth of health.
I did have the good build, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, in that build particularly, it just seemed like it took forever to get across that curve.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been good if I played for like another 50 hours.
I mean, I saw success on my original build, but didn't really start to enjoy the game until I switched to Minion Infernalist. But yeah, like I don't know, like I'm kind of holding my opinion until I see the frickin' patch notes, because who knows? Because apparently every ability and everything got tweaked. So,
But at the same time, can't I already know that they aren't fixing one of the core problems, which is like one of the primary defensive layers just doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, and part of it too is like they screwed up the order of operations of how some of that stuff worked, because so previously armor was like the last layer that applied, so that by the time armor actually was taken into account, you had potentially reduced the incoming damage by a few other vectors first, but armor is calculated first. So, you know, and that breaks all the things that are like, I don't know, like chaos. Armor also applies to chaos damage or something like that. Whereas that used to be really good because your chaos reduction would get applied first, then the armor would get applied on top of it. But now it happens in the other direction, and I don't know why. Why did you do that?
I feel like I know why, because like they didn't want the PoE1 situation where you can like make armor apply to everything and then have a nearly immortal character, because they don't want to have nearly immortal characters.
But people want nearly immortal characters. Like, that's
I'm
the
aware
thing.
of this.
Like part of why I am enjoying myself in Path of Exile 1 right now is I am playing literally the best version of Righteous Fire that's ever existed. I am converting 100% of physical damage to fire damage. Like I'm taking 100% of fizz as fire and taking 20% of fire as cold and 20% of fire as lightning.
You can't actually convert those twice. So you are taking physical as entirely fire.
Yeah, so I've got, 40% from my chest, 40% from the weird ascendancy, and 20% from a Dawnbreaker shield. And sorry, I misspoke. I'm taking 20% of lightning damage as fire and 20% of cold as fire.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And I have 90% fire res. And I have 88 lightning and 88 cold. So yeah, like this is great, it was this is the third level 100 character that I've made in the game, and most of that is just grinding it out. I got to 34 achievements in the settlers, so I could have the bigger totem now. It's the best version of RF that's existed, but I'm also kind of sad because it's probably not going to exist ever again.
I mean,
it's a little sad the Phrecia stuff is going to be extremely temporary. Some of it's very interesting. Some of it didn't work out.
Yeah.
We know this now.
Yeah.
I do think there is, it's probably worth saying, like, hey, maybe I don't love how much of Path of Exile 1's, like, quote-unquote defensive layers are locked behind specific unique items in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And there used to be other ways to get it, but then they nerfed that. So it's basically Cloak of Flames or Lightning Coil. That's it. That's all you got now.
I was going to say that situation got worse, not better, as a result of that change.
Yeah. And, I don't actually think that's good for the health of the game.
I'm sure we'll hear about it next time we get a PoE1 league.
I don't feel like the concept of having to do 3 layers of conversion to make the damage decent is a good idea. I feel like it's a core problem with their defensive layers otherwise, because the only ones that are feeling good are triple dipping.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I think the biggest issue is that the defensive layers are so esoteric that it's basically unavailable to people who are kind of not in the know on the game.
Right. Yeah. The thing is if you, evasion, if you are doing evasion by itself, it is going to feel awful. If you are doing evasion and spell suppression and potentially block at the same time, then it's going to feel great because you've got 3 layers of reduction before you take damage. Or blending in some energy shield. But to someone just sitting down to play the game, and none of that makes sense.
And what
why shouldn't I have all the armor?
Yeah, or what you just described is also that's the thing is why shouldn't I have evasion and armor? I should totally be going a little bit into both of those. That'll make sense, right?
Well, it totally makes sense so long as you've got at least 20k of both.
Well, yeah, but that's not a little bit into.
Exactly. That's heavy investment.
That's not something a person would get through normal course of play.
No, it's doing dumb things with math is how you succeed at Path of Exile.
In a large part, that's how you succeed at games in this style.
Yes.
Question is how much of the math is obscure to you or not.
How much of the math do you need a third-party tool to even see?
Yes.
Because all the things that I just rattled off of my defensive layers on this particular build, none of them actually show on the character sheet. Resistance shows in the character sheet. That's it. All the other things that I'm doing to shift damage don't show in the character sheet at all. We also had a Nintendo Direct this week.
Yay, Nintendo Direct. The last Direct for the current edition of the Switch.
I feel like I saw one exciting new game, and that is a very exciting game, and then a lot of surprising remakes.
I was kind of bummed that we didn't.
2 exciting new games.
I was bummed that we didn't get a date for Metroid Prime.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
My
just
son
happy to
was
see it.
extremely eager to see if there was any news about Hollow Knight Silksong as he started playing Hollow Knight.
Isn't your son just beaten Hornet?
He's at Soulmaster now.
Okay.
Hollow Knight Silksong was the friends we made along the way.
It's the new Duke Nukem Forever.
I did inform him that I have been waiting for Hollow Knight Silksong as long as he's been alive.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh.
that's harsh but true.
Indirectly reminds me of, so they've added some new levels to Astrobot over the past few weeks, and one of them has a bot that is Jade from Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh.
Oof.
Oh,
Oof.
why you gotta do me like that, Sony?
So I got to explain to my son who that is, and how there's technically maybe supposed to be a sequel one day.
It is always funny because like I always joke that like yes, like Legend of Zelda all takes place in their own little pocket universes, like telling the same story. But I always kind of was like, it'd be cool to see the modern take on this game. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. It was Beyond Good and Evil.
Mhm.
I'm again going to remind you that Okami exists.
Okami is very, very good and very Zelda.
I understand. I had a really hard time with the drawing part of it for some reason.
Circle detection is a little rough, yeah.
Yes.
When you get used to how the game, like, it's a thing you can get used to, but yeah, initially it's a little annoying.
I found myself surprised while watching the Switch thing that, this like dark Metroidvania game pops up. I'm like,
oh yeah,
and then I'm like, is that
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man.
And I guess we've seen this game before at Jeff Keighley's thing, but I didn't watch that, so this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, but like this is the second weird reimagining of an Atari game, because there's the Yar's Revenge, which is nothing even vaguely close to that franchise.
Yeah, or
I mean, Atari is doing their own weird things. Pac-Man is Namco.
I guess you're right.
Also,
it looked really cool though.
Didn't we get like hints of this because they did a weird thing for a secret level related to Pac-Man?
That was what I saw, that there was something about, yeah. But again, that wasn't something I'd seen, so.
Yeah, I've not actually sat down to watch Secret Level yet.
But yeah, apparently one of the things in that was basically like a prequel to this game or something. But yeah, like I mean, maybe that's what they're going to do now with all that classic Atari and like that classic Atari IP and a Namco IP and stuff, is let somebody make a Metroidvania out of it.
I feel like if you're going to make a Metroidvania anyway, Dig Dug was right there.
Yeah. Or Mr. Doe. I'd play a Metroidvania where my primary attack is an air pump.
I don't know. I heard somebody talking about the recent Yar's Revenge Metroidvania and saying it's not actually very good, unfortunately.
It looks really pretty, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, Way Forward drew everything for it, so it does look quite nice.
I'm more looking forward to the next Nintendo Direct, because I think I'm going to be a sucker and try and snag a Switch 2.
So,
Yup.
yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. I did think the other interesting thing about this one is like they kind of use this as an opportunity to be like, and here is a way for you to move games from your current Switch to your next Switch.
Yes.
Which made me realize that I didn't realize how owning multiple Switch consoles worked. It's apparently a lot worse than I thought it would be.
I mean, currently, if you aren't terribly interested in continuing to use the old Switch, all you have to do is put your account on the new Switch and download all your stuff.
Yeah, but like you can't have both your games on two different Switches is the idea. Which
I have never tried to make this work. I have no idea how it does. I know with like PlayStation stuff, it works pretty well. Like it worked too well, and they made it work less well at some point. But it's still, you can have like a primary and a secondary. So one of them needs to connect to the internet to like play your games, but whatever, it can still do it.
Yeah, I was mostly thinking about like I have a Steam Deck and I can like play games on my Steam Deck and then I can play them on my like computer at home, and there's no issues with that.
Yeah, the beauty of playing games on PC. None of the consoles work like this.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that.
Honestly, Steam also barely works like this because it does eventually get a little angry at you if you're playing it from too many places simultaneously. Simultaneously is the key word there, though.
I was like, not angry enough to stop me.
I think it does make some sort of exception for the Steam Deck, but like just two computers in the same house is sometimes it gets a little like, hey, you're already playing this.
But also, you can just stream your copy from the other machine.
You can just stream your copy from the other machine. I will say my biggest surprise, well, I had two big surprises. One is that Rido is getting a remake. What?
Hey, I
That
saw
was
Jack
unexpected.
Frost in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was watching it. I was
it's
like,
a
hi.
spin-off.
She's like, oh, this is the Megami Tensei
Yeah.
game, isn't it?
As they pointed out on Checkpoint, it's not like full SMT, but it's pretty close.
I mean, the original title of this game was Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Rido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army.
That's a mouthful.
Sure is, isn't it?
Probably a good thing they shortened it a little bit. I mean, I think everybody just called them like the Rido games anyway.
Everybody just calls it Rido 1 or Rido 2.
Yeah. I have never played them, so I think I'm going to be checking this out because it looks really cool.
I also missed these. They were PS2 games that released when I was not aware of the SMD franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was aware of Devil Summoner's existence, but I never played it. So yeah, I will probably also check this out.
And the other surprise was, okay, we get the Konami likes to make money by re-releasing their old stuff. They put out the DS Castlevania games on Switch and various other things last year, and did a great job with that collection, actually. So they're going to the Gradius mines. The last time I got a Gradius game was Gradius 5 in a year that's going to make me sad. I'm guessing this game is 20 years old.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably, yeah, that sounds about right. Because that was all. It's because it was PlayStation 2 as well. So yeah,
2004. This game is 21 years old. But in addition to the classic games, they're also releasing Salamander 3. That's not a classic game. That doesn't already exist. That's a new game in an old style.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm super into this. That was definitely it's gonna be like a immediate buy because like it's been years since I've played through the Gradius games.
yeah, it's been a long time since I've played any of them.
I have never played through a bunch of the oldest ones. I think Gradius 3 on the SNES is the oldest one I've played.
I played a lot of Life Force. I had that one. The others I rented and or borrowed.
But I love Gradius 5. Although, to be fair, Gradius 5 was also made by Treasure, who has not done anything in a very long time.
Are they still even around?
Technically, yes. I have no idea what they do nowadays. The last thing they did was put Radiant Silvergun on Steam, and that was some years ago.
Yeah, and Guardian Heroes got a re-release on some platforms. That is probably my favorite of their games.
I mean, my favorite Treasure game is still Eureka, so yeah. But in addition to the old things, we also saw a Metroid Prime 4 trailer, which is like, yay, gameplay for that game is the first time.
Psychic powers.
And an announcement of Tomodachi Life 2.
Whoa.
So somebody's going to have to explain
It's
this
an odd
to
looking
me.
game.
Yeah, I don't know much about this one either. I don't really get it. Oh boy.
Is that a sequel?
Yeah, the sequel to a game that was on the 3DS, I want to say.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to be excited for it.
This game was weird.
It's so weird.
It looked weird.
Yeah.
It's imagine if somebody who'd previously only made gacha games was trying to get out of it, Yakuza style, and decided to make a game, had only really read reviews of The Sims and gotten independent. It's weird, man. I'm genuinely surprised that anybody remembers it, much less enough to make a sequel.
It was apparently very popular in Japan.
This surprises me in zero ways.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently, I mean, take this with a grain of salt because Wikipedia, but Tomodachi Life was a sequel to a game called Tomodachi Collection, which was conceived as a version of a fortune-telling Hamtaro video game.
We didn't get that one.
No, we did not.
That one.
Nor did we get the Hamtaro video game. Which is Totoko Hamtaro Tomodachi Daisakusen Detsu. Okay.
Well, I mean, okay, the name sounds adorable.
So that's an interesting just like line of okay.
Like it's played with Mii's, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Like Mii's technically still exist on the Switch, barely in life support. But yeah, this I do remember this game being very popular, like quietly very popular. It was not a game that really crossed into the gamer audience very much. But hey, a lot of people had 3DSs.
I mean, I assume it made use of Street Pass, and Street Pass was real popular for a minute there.
So yeah, they announced a sequel to that. That's one where people have been waiting 10 years with basically no hope. Sort of like Okami people last December. Like, hey, wow, I'm surprised.
I mean, the one thing I saw was somebody posted a picture of their Nintendo bingo, which was 20 spaces that were Rhythm Heaven and 5 spaces that were Tomodachi Life, and then afterwards posted like the entire board crossed out. I was like, I win!
Amazing.
Because Rhythm Heaven is also coming back.
Yeah, new Rhythm Heaven game as well, which also okay.
Yeah, I had the DS one of those.
It's a game you can play without looking at it, as the advertisement goes.
This is technically true.
And again, like first new one in a decade.
Yep. I'd actually forgotten, like, I didn't realize that the Rhythm Heaven for the DS, along with Fever and Paradise, were like within a few years of each other. So, like, it's been a long time, but when we last had them, they were coming out kind of frequently.
It was like every 2-3 years, yeah.
I mean, if we're having to wait for 10 years for franchise updates, then I think we might be kind of actually due for a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, because the last original one of those came out in 2015.
Oof. What system?
3DS.
Ah. Now, what one have I played? Is that a remake of the original?
A remake of the original.
Mm.
I would also accept a remake of the second game as a new game, because that game was very good, and more people deserve to see it.
Yes, I would appreciate seeing it. I would like to see it.
So this has been a weird year because it has been a year of people who are not Bethesda making competent Bethesda games. Because
I feel like this game is not Fallout.
It is very Fallout. Having played
looks
it
like Fallout.
No, it is very Fallout. Like it is extremely Fallout. It is, what if Fallout were just egregiously British?
So Fallout London.
The game is called Atomfall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a different setup. It is not the entire world went away in nuclear war. It's that this experiment in the corner of England did some bad things with atomic energy, and now there's like this exclusion zone that you're stuck in, and everybody's gone wonky inside there.
Pacific Drive.
There are very, very British gangs as outlaws, and there are ferals instead of feral ghouls, which like it's a really good game so far. Like it is one of those games that has, so like there's a main story path, and if you follow it, you will make your way through the game if you so choose. However, there are breadcrumbs all over the frickin' place that will lead you in slightly different directions, but will also still take you back to the necessary elements. So running around and looting clipboards and other random things will give you, story nuggets that will help you find your way to where you need to go. And like, there's been like, there's an overarching objective that I have to go to this one place, right? But there's been 4 different chains of events that have led me in that same direction that I've found on my own. And so like, that's cool. So like in theory, if you wanted to just free roam and do your own thing, you'll eventually find all the same quest elements without strictly following like a journal. Also, like, it's doing a lot of the stuff that Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 did, where there's a crafting system and there's, you know, materials that you gather, but it is intelligent and skips the whole step of you having to go break them down somewhere into raw elements. So like if you find a rag anywhere in the world, and there are like 5 distinct models that I've found so far that represents this element, they all just get looted as cloth. So that in your inventory, it's just cloth. But, you know, so like it feels kind of cool to go around and like, you know, pick up all these individual items that get broken down into raw materials as soon as you loot them. And they're just crafting elements. But there's the flavor of the weird items that you're picking up is kind of cool. Combat's pretty good. I mean, I'd say it's better than Fallout combat.
That's not a very high bar.
Yeah, like, I mean, stealth is a little weird, but also if you just back out, a lot of times they'll ignore you and you can go on about your day. Yeah, like I'm really impressed so far. Like it's a different setup than Fallout, but it very much feels like super British Fallout.
Interesting. Who made it?
Rebellion?
I really am hyped that more people are working on the Bethesda model.
They were previously known for the Sniper Elite series.
Interesting. Yeah.
And Evil Genius.
And Strange Brigade, which kind of looked cool, but I never played. But like they do a really good Bethesda game, so good for them. I like that this, like Tam just said, I like that this genre has new people carrying it forward. Kind of like Spiders was carrying forward the BioWare genre, except for they got distracted and made a Souls-like at some point. If Greedfall 2 ever comes out of early access, I will absolutely play it.
Right?
I don't want to have that doled out in little segments. Like Baldur's Gate 3 proved to me that, yeah, no, I want to wait.
Yep.
I've also heard good things about Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I've heard really good things about it, and I really want to try it.
Yeah, I clearly need to pick that one up.
Tam, have you been playing it?
Which one? Atomfall?
No, Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Had a moment of lag there. You know, Assassin's Creed Shadows rules. Like, it's really, really good.
Now, this is more along the line of their open world games, isn't it?
Sorta, yeah. Like, yes, but you wouldn't know it in the first hour or so of play.
Okay.
It's got a lot of story stuff going on. And like interesting characters, and I was like, okay, we're going to get to the point where my goal is to kill a bunch of people because I played these games before. The question is, how do we get there? And we get there really reasonably. Like the story has the right amount of setup. It compares favorably to Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion, and that's a really high bar. Like, it might be prettier than Ghost of Tsushima.
That's a very high bar.
Which is a very high bar. And I don't think that it has quite as much to say. Like, Ghost of Tsushima has a lot of... Ghost of Tsushima and its expansion have a lot of commentary about samurai and the portrayal of them and the realities of the whole thing. But it also stumbles because it's sort of reaching beyond its grasp sometimes. And this feels a little bit more dialed in. It helps that all of your friendly NPCs are like not bedraggled peasants. Like, it's a variety. It's a wider variety of people, and it's got like a little bit more of a sense of humor.
Are we still doing the like meta Assassin's Creed plot where there's like a modern day version of you? Or have we dropped that entirely at this point?
It's still there.
If you're going back to how it was in like Assassin's Creed 2 and 3, it hasn't been like that in a while.
Yeah.
What is the fig leaf justification now? Are we just like, hey, actually diving into these assassins' history is cool. Let's do it some more.
So, yes, actually.
Cool.
Like
Sold.
I'm not. So I'm piecing. I have not played enough of the Assassin's Creed games to be 100% sure if I'm getting my like synopsis of the meta plot right. But like the Assassin's Creed through Assassin's Creed 2 series, which is like 6 games, ultimately ends with Desmond, I don't know, winning or something, but also dying
In
or
AC3.
something. But like then the technology that was kind of the central part of the whole thing is being used to make entertainment. And there's a little bit of like, at least in the ones that I've played past that, there's a little bit of this sort of like Shadowrun corporate espionage. Hey, maybe there's some things you're not being told here. The corporations are bad, actually.
But like the Templars are still running the corporation, from what I remember, under the name Abstergo or something like that.
And they always like Abstergo was always the like evil corp that they're evil shell corp. But it's more like you're all different. It's like different people being radicalized against them.
Like in Origins, which was the beginning of the modern era of Assassin's Creed, you had stolen one of the machines from Abstergo, and you were only able to connect up with this person because of it was like your ancient ancestor.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I've played I mean, how much does Steam think I played this game? I've played like 3 or 4 hours, and other than a little bit in the intro, it hasn't come up even a little bit.
And I'm trying to think, like, did it even exist at all in Odyssey?
I don't remember it at all.
I don't remember it at all in Odyssey. And I didn't play the Viking one, so I don't know if it was in that.
I feel like I remember seeing modern bits when I was watching a playthrough of Odyssey. I didn't play it, but they were extremely rare.
Yeah, it's heavily de-emphasized, which is fine. I get to run around as a ninja. It's like it feels like the thing that Assassin's Creed has wanted to do for an incredibly long time.
I mean, you were effectively playing ninjas in other games.
Right. And like, I actually respect their rationale for not doing it, because for their whole thing is like, we didn't like, yes, we know that Japan was, we know that like feudal Japan was obvious. Like doing the ninjas thing was an obvious game. We just didn't want to do that because we wanted to explore other parts of the world that don't get as much like view. That's why we started this game series in like the Middle East, because nobody gets to play games where you're an actual Middle Easterner playing in the Middle East doing like reasonably, at least exploring parts of that culture as much as they're able to do. And like, I respect that, actually. That's cool. But also, yes, they finally made the Ninjas game, and it's really good. Like, it's the best Assassin's Creed I've played, I think.
So I understand the two characters play extremely differently?
Unbelievably differently.
Okay.
I mean, one of them is a big bruiser samurai, where you like tower over everyone and you're armored, and
who very distinctly does not look like anybody else around.
Yeah, I mean, also that
he's not blending in.
He's actually super, super cool, and I want more screen time with him. Like, just there's a lot going on there that I think is interesting. Most of the time that I've spent has been with Naoe. She's the like young ninja, basically. Did they have a grappling hook
In what?
in like the previous modern AC games?
I haven't played
Not
previous...
in Origins or Odyssey.
Because I don't remember it in Odyssey.
Okay. She has the most ninja-y grappling hook, and it is such an interesting movement tool that it's such an interesting, and it feels like such a polished movement tool that I thought that it had to have this had to be like the second or third iteration of it. I'm really impressed if it's not, because it opens up so many interesting movement tools that you just didn't have, that I never felt like I had previously. Like I can move around in interesting ways quickly, and that's just not always available. But yeah, it's cool. There's a bunch of interesting moves. I definitely have that feeling it's a feeling that I haven't had since the earlier ones, where it's like, oh no, these people are better fighters than me. I'm just craftier and sneakier, and I can outmaneuver them because I'm faster. And then I can, at other times when I'm playing Yasuke, it's like, no, these same enemies are a joke to me. I am so much more powerful than they are. I have no idea how their two stories intertwine yet. It feels like it would be difficult for them to intertwine, and I find that interesting.
Yeah, because they're going to eventually.
I assume so. And they're doing a certain amount of romanticizing feudal Japan, but I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game. I'm going to this place to romanticize some portion of history. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's sort of torn me from Monster Hunter. It really feels like it's been a little while since I've actually gotten into an Assassin's Creed game, and it feels, because I don't really care about Greece and I don't really care about Vikings, but it definitely feels like they've reinvented the model in some ways, in good and helpful ways, and you can stab people through paper doors, which
that's fun.
They know exactly what they're about.
Okay, Kodra, tell us your chess woes.
I mean, it's less woes. It's more just it's very interesting playing different time amounts. So I have been playing a lot of 10-minute chess, and I am rated, about a 700 on the ELO rating. And then I've also been playing blitz chess, which is 3-minute chess. And A, I lose a whole bunch of games on time, and B, I just am about 600 rating points worse at it. And it's interesting to see this. And I'm just the fact of just not having the time really does mess with you. And I'm having fun with chess still. It's just it is really interesting to see where the time pressure gets to me. And my ability to naturally read a board is quite poor. But I don't know. It's an interesting challenge.
I assume that's really just the sort of thing that evolves over time.
Yeah, the ability to read a chessboard, I think, is going to get better as I get just more time with it.
Because I would not be surprised if a lot of the people that you're ending up playing against have not studied chess as a concept for a long period of time.
I feel a lot of people are not necessarily, not studying chess is probably accurate. But it's interesting how much more focused I get on small parts of the board when I'm playing these chess games and not seeing the whole board just because I get hyper fixated. It's a different experience.
Anyone have any final thoughts about anything?
Xenoblade X continues to be a very good game.
Yes.
So this is going to be a game it feels like Breath of the Wild. Is this a good start for a Xenoblade's experience?
It is a great start for a Xenoblade experience because it has no stated relation to any other game in the series.
Yeah,
okay.
It plays much different from the other ones, so you could pretty much pretend that it's, separate from the others for sure.
I feel like the word stated is kind of important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, like, Xenoblade 2 required no knowledge of Xenoblade 1.
Is this?
Mm.
And the only thing you get out of it is some knowledge of what's going on in the ending.
Yeah.
What is the actual full title of this game?
Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition.
Okay, because there are a lot of Xenoblade games, and they are not named like Xbox consoles.
Yeah, this was the second to release Xenoblade game.
Because there was another one that I was playing recently that was like and maybe I'm confusing genres. Maybe I'm confusing games, but it was a party of people who had to fight other parties of people to live.
3.
So, yeah,
That's 3.
Xenoblade 3.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's a weird one.
And like it was cool, but it felt like I didn't have a bunch of context for anything that was going on.
Yeah.
Even
That's
if you
a rough
have
one to
played
start
previous
with.
games, that is contextless.
Yeah.
Cool.
But there are some parts that are interesting and do make a little bit of sense if you've played the others, but it's not absolutely required.
It gave you the I walked into the movie theater 40 minutes into a movie feeling.
Yeah.
It did.
But no, none of those things are related to previous games in the series.
That is true.
At first.
Is the combat style similar to that, though?
X is
Kinda.
more similar to the first game. But it is pretty much like, you're moving around on the battlefield, kind of, free motion and performing actions.
Which have cooldowns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Xenoblade 1, all of your actions have cooldowns. Xenoblade 2, your actions have cooldowns based on how often you hit.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 3 breaks up the characters into ones that work both ways.
Yeah. X being based kind of loosely on one's combat feels a lot nicer now because they've added a quick recast system. So combat is a lot faster at the start, especially before you get overdrive and other stuff.
Yeah, eventually you get stuff to make... Well, first of all, your abilities get lower cooldowns as you level them up.
Mm-hmm.
And also you get other things later that will just give you faster cooldowns. Overdrive is the big one, but even other than that, I think there are some things that can speed up your cooldowns.
Yeah, they're like augments and stuff like that.
But at the start of the game, you don't have any of that, and you might not have a full set of abilities to have on cooldown. So the addition of a quick recast button is extremely useful.
Yes.
It also really, really helps when you're switching classes and may go down to 2 or 4 abilities. As someone who just went into Blast Fencer and lost all my abilities, it's like, oh, right. I forgot this was going to happen.
Yeah, but eventually you can have all of the fun skills and abilities. You just have to work from a little bit at first. I actually went down a path I hadn't played too much the first time through on the Wii U version, and I'm actually having a lot of fun. I went down I'm a Galactic Knight right now.
Yeah, that's the route that I went down. Blast Fencer into Galactic Knight is that class path.
That's right, yeah, it is. So Galactic Knight is pretty fun.
I really like the lightsaber abilities. I mean,
Yes.
Photon Saber abilities.
Yes, the Photon Saber. Yeah, that's really selling it for me right now too. I was like, oh, this is really cool.
I really like some of the stuff from... I mean, the first time I played the game, I followed the advice of someone and think I went down the same path as Elma because, yes, that class path is busted.
It is.
Still busted. Elma's Ghostwalker ability is busted.
Yeah. Now it's basically if I have to fight a boss and I can't quite get through it on my own, I just swap to playing Elma and then it's not a problem. So
Turns out, yeah, that character is very good.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Full Metal Jaguar is a class that probably does sound familiar if you've played 3.
Or 2, quite frankly. It was clear when the DLC for 2 came out that they remembered Xenoblade X. They remembered what the busted stuff was and gave it all to her in a boss fight.
Yeah. I remember spending quite a bit of time unlocking her from that. But yeah, X is great. It's a lot of fun. Just I feel like I'm going through the early game a little bit faster now, obviously, just because there's a lot of stuff I remember, and I'm kind of torn between like taking my time, but also going for the new story bits. But for better or for worse, I haven't had a ton of time to play it this week, so. But it's fun.
Well, that was probably a show. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.